Guys, before the video starts, let me tell you, this review is full spoiler loaded. It is full of spoilers, like scene by scene ka details have been discussed. So in case you haven't watched the movie, don't watch this. Come back after you have. And what are you waiting for? Go now. Book your tickets. Chalo, bye. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Jyoti. Kya chala hai, kya chala hai? Dhurandhar chala hai. I feel like it's Dhurandhar week on the channel, है Totally did not expect this to happen at all because started with just covering the title track because I got so many requests for it since Hanuman Kind was on it. And it went from there. It really went from there. All of you were like, cover the trailer. First look I had already seen, which I watched during the first song ka reaction. Then the trailer came and everyone was hyped. I covered it. Wahan se fir snowball effect hua. Like all the songs have been so good. Had to cover. I was so happy personally to see so many names such as Rebel on the soundtrack, and just hyped from for covering it in the way I normally cover songs over here. But now for the first time, I'm doing a movie review, which I have never done before. So when I was starting to record abhi, I was thinking कि क्या करूँगी मैं? इतना time camera के सामने बस बात करनी है. There's nothing to watch. There's no lyrics to read. What? How am I going to do this? So I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'll just let it flow because like my reactions, I just want to keep this raw, organic, real. And we'll take it from there. So I've watched the movie now. I've covered the soundtrack. You heard in my previous videos कि अब next movie review आएगा सीधा. And वहीं हम चलते हैं. So the way I want to do this is I want to talk about, of course, the aspects of the film, but there are better experts to do a lot of that stuff than me. I'm not, technically a film reviewer or anything, but as a layperson and an audience member, and as a citizen of India who has lived through a lot of the events sare events that were shown in this film, I can talk from a personal perspective and my thoughts and emotions as I was watching those scenes and sort of even reliving some memories. So wo karenge, or right at the onset, I want to say that, if you've seen my Instagram story, you've seen that I love the film. That's a no-brainer. I've loved it. I am just in awe of what Aditya Dhar has done, the intent, and the intent backed by the technicalities of it, and just the embellishments that he's added to this whole thing. So I'm going to go over all of that. Anyone who calls this a communal movie, anyone who calls this movie propaganda, I think we all know that they're either speaking from a place of complete and utter ignorance, or they're speaking from a place of complete and utter bias and prejudice. And I would just like to refer to all of them throughout this video, wherever the need arises. I would just like to refer to them as the ostrich pack, the pack of ostriches, especially the Indians who are trying to be negative towards this movie, because they are really those who stick their head in the sand and do not want to face reality and truth, and would just much rather live in La La Land where ISI agents and raw agents are having affairs and dancing on beaches. So those are not the people that I personally would pay any attention to, and there are enough and more of those in our country. They call themselves film critics, but their personal biases and their political biases or whatever other crap they have in their beings, वो सब उलट के आता है जब उनको ऐसी चीजों का रिव्यू करना पड़ता है या बातचीत करनी पड़ती है, which doesn't align with their agenda. So that being said, I have never tried to hide how big a nationalist I am. And another thing that I have noticed is people calling this film hyper-nationalist, which I'm like, what does that even mean? What does hyper-nationalism mean? I think आप जितना hyper अपनी nationalism के बारे में होगे उतना कम है. There's no such thing as hyper-nationalism. It should be hyper and to the power 10. We don't care about those labels. Every single country in the world, including the US and everyone else, makes movies that are pro their country. And as consumers, we have lapped those films up, whether it's Will Smith's Independence Day or Argo, or like, I mean, I could go on with like a whole list of American films that these very critics and people lap up. And I don't see any issue in an Indian filmmaker putting the Indian viewpoint out there. And it's not even like he projected India with like as a superpower, like most American films do, whether or not it is, relevant. But it was just a very, very, very real portrayal of historic events that were weaved into the story that was, part fiction. But let me start. Okay, you know what? Let me just start from here by talking about the real Dhurandhar and the real hero of this entire thing, which is Aditya Dhar, because everything starts with a thought, an idea in the mind of one individual and one man. And the way I've seen Aditya Dhar, um, first heard of him thanks to Uri. And honestly, I was living in Delhi at the time when Uri came out, and I thought, okay, they've made another, film on a real event. Usme thoda bahut wo hoga, drama, कोई डांस सॉन्ग आ जाएगा, कोई लव स्टोरी घुसा देंगे या जो भी, whatever typically we've seen from Bollywood, which is why I've been like, I don't even want to call this film a Bollywood film, although it has used Ranveer Singh, who is an out and out Bollywood star in it. But I think that was also a very smart decision. I'll come to that. But I feel that this movie is literally the antithesis of everything Bollywood has stood for so far in our lives. And, I have no qualms in saying that because it is factual. And we've just been made to believe that so much whitewashing and just, ये आप एक सिल्क की साड़ी पहना रहे हैं हमारे लाइक हिस्टोरिकल इनजस्टिसेस पे और उसको ऐसे प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं कि हाँ मतलब so we've been used to that, and I'm no exception to the thing that even I got swayed by it earlier, before I had done my reading and before I had re-informed myself of with facts. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make, like, I used to love that film, Jodha Akbar. No wonder Ritik is a little posting political stuff around this movie and how he may not agree because he has played Akbar and he has portrayed Akbar as exactly the opposite of what Akbar really was. So at some point or the other, the cracks in your thing will start to show now. Even Ritik is no exception. But anyway, coming back. Sorry, this is going to be a very informal review. I want to talk about Aditya Dhar. The idea, why does an idea come into someone's mind, an idea of this scale, an idea of making a movie with this much passion, this much precision, this much like attention to detail? It comes because you have lived a life that made you want to tell the story of things that happened in your land the right way, the truthful way, right? It has probably come from years of just feeling frustrated. He's clearly so good at his craft. So he must have been growing up wanting to be a filmmaker, right? He must have been studying all the techniques, all the things. And while being a student of filmmaking before he became a filmmaker, he must have been frustrated because he lived a life, and coming from a Kashmiri Pandit background, I don't know his personal, family history, but I'm sure his family or his extended family, they have been affected by so many atrocities, and so much generational trauma is there. And just, just the first-hand stories he must have grown up with and known, it frames your worldview and it frames your intentions in a very strong way. So as soon as I saw Uri, because it had started blowing up, and after a very long time, I went to the cinema and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, this is unlike any. And I grew up on like the border of the, like border also, theek hai, achhi film thi. But, a lot of the you know what I'm talking about, all the dumb movies, the way they showed like historical events and tried to just, whitewash very, very harsh realities. वो उरी में नहीं था. उरी में it was literally, it almost felt like it was biographical and you were there when things were happening. It was not over the top anything. It was done in such a sleek, stylized manner. And the music that supported it, the entire, I would say that the filter that they used throughout the movie, for lack of a better word, the color grading, all of it was so sleek and new age. And the way the story was told and the way Vicky really got to shine. For the first time, we saw how our, special forces conduct these kind of operations. And it was also the first time that we really hit back as a country. So it was very important, especially for someone like an Aditya Dhar. You can tell it was very important for him to document it, and to document it in his style, and to tell that story in his style. And what happened after Uri was, there was just this wave of nationalism and respect and love for the armed forces and everything they achieved through that attack that swept through the country. And that's no small feat, right? So I feel, and also it won so many national awards because जब आप बताते हैं चीजें सही तरीके से और तो क्यों नहीं आपको praise मिलेगी, right? क्यों नहीं आपको support मिलेगा from the people who love their country and who are proud of the fact that we hit back. We finally hit back. So anyway, Aditya Dhar, you can see that it's a build up. It's a build up, and he must have sat with this idea and said, हमारे इतने सारे attacks हुए हैं हमारी country पे, हमारे nation के not just sovereignty पे, safety पे, security पे, citizens पे, but हमारी national psyche पे. Because the fact of the matter is that when our airline was hijacked, when our parliament was attacked, when Mumbai was attacked, when so many of these blasts happened, I was in Bombay when the 2006 blast happened. I was, I don't want to relive all of that, but we've lived through those events and we never can hit back in a way that should have been the norm. That should have been standard operating procedure. We didn't hit back. And it was frustrating as citizens. And I'm telling you this because, like, okay, I'm telling you this because it's important, especially for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, to know that y'all have not lived through those. Either you were not born yet or you were too young to have any memory of it. But we've lived through those events and we have felt the frustration and we've felt the anger, or we've seen our parents feel it, right? And even though I lived outside India most of my life, we had enough of a, how should I say this? We've been raised with enough of nationalist pride and just very strong attachment to our roots, whether it's our religious, spiritual, cultural, linguistic, whatever, whether it's anything. We've just been raised in a very, very strong national household, right? And I'm speaking for myself. So we were watching on TV the hijack. We were stuck. Even as a very very young child, I remember, and I remember कि वो कितने दिन चला था, कुछ 2-3 दिन थे, और फिर we remember दुबई में लैंड हुआ था वो प्लेन, और फिर से टेक ऑफ हुआ था. And as a young child, I was just like, what is going on? And then finally I remember watching the entire handing over of the prisoners on TV, and then those people driving off. And even as a young child, I remember feeling pissed off. I was just like, why are they doing this? Why are they letting them go? And then obviously because we need to save so many more lives, right? So but today, if you go and read the first-hand accounts of the people who were there dealing with that situation on ground, including Ajit Doval, you'll see that what they've shown in the movie is bang on. He did say that if we had had a little more time, we would have been able to corner these guys. And they were dealing with so many limitations at the time because our diplomatic ties were just not strong enough. Neither with the UAE, obviously not with Pakistan, not with the Taliban who were in control of that Kandahar airport. There was no communication given to the PM when the hijacking even occurred. There's so many facts that you don't know. And Aditya Dhar sat and said, ये चीजें हुई हैं. मैं सब तो हाईलाइट नहीं कर सकता सारे के सारे अटैक्स, लेकिन जो प्रोमिनेंट वो हैं उनके अराउंड मुझे एक स्टोरी बनानी है which will be laced with as much fact as fiction to inform the public, to inform the people, the ones who don't have any memory of it and the ones who've lived through it as well, to inform them that we have gone through this as a collective people. We have gone through this as a nation, and we must not forget. I don't remember so much of the parliament attack because my college mein thi, and I wasn't glued into the news as much. But when I saw it in the film, the way the white ambassador went through the barricades, and then somewhere I saw wo jo lady constable thi, security guard, they shot her. Her story popped up on X yesterday, and how she was awarded post her death because she was the one who managed to get the gate closed so they couldn't cause as much harm. But when you see it on screen and you have a visual sort of imagery and memory of it, it feels so much more real. It feels more than just a headline that you may have read in your life, right? So mad props to Aditya Dhar for picking on these events in the timeline and weaving them into the story that he's weaved for us, and he's written for us. It also made me think while watching it कि मुझे इतना irritation. I remember before the 2014 elections, we were just like, my family, we were sitting and discussing ki agar is baar change nahi hoti hai government, we are like, we don't know if we'll move back ever to India, And it was frustrating because we were not going to live away forever. We had, my parents had, full intention to retire and come back to the motherland. So I remember it was, I remember having those conversations at home, and it was just like, no, things have to change now. Things have to change because, anyway, I won't go over there, but I love that Aditya Dhar sat with this intent and weaved in the story and highlighted all these things. And then he decided, you know what, I'm not going to whitewash anything. I'm not going to give it a stylistic look. I'm not going to, um, you know, you know what I mean, like Bollywoodize it, for lack of a better term. I'm going to just show the events like someone would have probably watched them on the news channels. That's it. So even the opening scene in the film, um, and by the way, he, the research on all these events and on all the factual stuff shown in the film, he's been helped by very, very renowned um, and Diggaj journalists like Aditya Raj Kaul, and I think there was one more name. Um, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but I remember seeing Aditya Raj Kaul and one more person's name. So let me look that up on Google actually. So there were two names, but abhi Google Pay, it's only showing me one, which is, of course, journalist and researcher Aditya Raj Kaul, who uncovered the story from a tip-off about the real-life killing of IC-814 hijacker Zahoor Mistry of Bhola in Karachi, inspiring the film's focus on covert Indian intelligence ops in Pakistan's Lyari area, though the film blends facts with fiction. So, so here's the thing. If you've read Amish Tripathi's Shiva trilogy, you will know the power of taking things from actual events and stories which happened, and then creating a character and a story and a world, interlacing the two, right? So there's this fictional story, but these things are static, they are as they happened in time, and then you weave this story with these characters in, and then the kind of पक के जो वो होता है डिश तैयार, तो वो कुछ और ही होता है, and it is a means to reawaken people to the truths. That's, I feel, the main intent of thing like this. And coming to what I mentioned, Ranveer ki casting and everyone else. So he must have said ki, if you notice in Uri, he cast Vicky, and Vicky was not that well known before. I think he had played like a supporting role to Ranveer, I think in Sanju, and that had gotten him some accolades, but he had not played this leading role before. I had interviewed him, by the way, after Masan, and I was like, this guy's going to be big. And Aditya Dhar clearly knew that. We must have, I don't know if they did a screen test or audition, jo bhi hai, but he picked someone basically who was not already an established star. But Vicky understood that assignment and how brought the right Josh to it. See what I did there? And absolutely nailed it. In this one, I feel the reason he's cast someone like Ranveer, and here I'm just guessing, is because he wanted this film and the telling of this particular story laced with all the factual data from history and India's timeline. He wanted to have as many eyeballs on it as possible. But even though he's had a Ranveer Singh heading this entire thing, his support cast as strong, as a Ranveer. I haven't seen them doing some crazy like PR interviews and promotions before the release. I haven't seen it. Have you? I haven't seen it. And I feel that's such an interesting strategy, because when someone has put in so much money, and obviously there's now that he's a national award winner, he's got more access to funds and producers. But despite having all of that and having a very, very Diggaj star cast, supporting cast, he's still not done the media route the way normally promotions happen, which also speaks volumes, by the way. It also speaks volumes. For the route they decided, they're like, no, we'll let the film do the talking. They created enough of a hype with the trailer, the songs, and the visuals. Oh my God, even the teaser. And I think this sort of held back ness of theirs worked in their favor, because people were like, damn, we got to watch this first day first show, and I really feel that again is a whole case study, because I feel like if you've got the right product that you believe in and it's gonna hit and it's gonna connect, then you don't need all the foo-foo things around it, because the more your actors talk, sometimes कुछ ज़्यादा ही हो जाता है before the film even comes out. So just avoid, because I feel this is a very pure film in its intention, and that intention to me became clear as it unfolded कि हम बताएंगे क्या हुआ है भाई, because लोग भूल जाते हैं या लोगों को पता ही नहीं है. और अब जो जनरेशन आई है, Gen Alpha is like getting into adulthood very soon. Gen Z is already there. It's they need to know, man. They should know. And I have to say that I really admire Gen Z, because most of y'all, if not all actually, most of y'all are very clued in. Y'all know, and I would, I think the power of uh, podcasts and YouTube and all of that really lends to y'all being well informed. So I admire that. Now let's go to the movie, and what I'll do is I'll try and go through the scenes of it, and and just talk about how I felt through them, and then I'll talk about the other things like actors and music and all that. Music पे तो हो गई है इतनी बार और कितना है वो. Anyway, so now coming back, it started with the hijack, right? And I'm going to relate things back to my personal life and my memories of it, so bear with me on those. We see Ajit Doval, Ajay Khanna and Madhavan. How good did he act? It was, so for me, overall, part one has laid the groundwork. It has laid the groundwork as much as I would have loved to have walked out of the cinema feeling like, yeah, man, look at us, we're such studs. We got, like we got the bad guys and this and that. No, part one is actually not about that at all. Part one is about waking you up to what really happened. And what really happened was that nothing happened. Nothing happened. We constantly kept taking attack after attack after attack, and this is all fact. And anyone who tries to refute it, I will just chapade, it's all fact. It's all there. Go and look it up. Okay, don't argue in the comments. We were attacked, we took it. We were attacked again, we didn't attack back. We were attacked again, we didn't attack back. So many people have a problem with the dialogue that the hijacker says to Ajit Doval कि बड़ी क्या weak कॉम है या कमजोर कॉम है, जो भी है. And we were like, oh, it's so communal, it's so jingoistic, it's so sparking hatred between communities. No, you guys, I mean, let's get very real. They were hijackers from a terrorist organization. They are all about killing the kafirs who are non-believers. Okay, that's their motto. Please go and read. Please go and read their mission statements if you must. But understand that this is not community versus community or anything. This is a geopolitical film. This is about an ongoing war towards India and what India stands for. And to these organizations that are all about militancy and terrorism, to them, we are a Hindu qawm. We are the land of the Hindus. In case you haven't heard of it, go read up the two-nation theory. Okay, the two-nation theory was based on religion. It was based on the fact that we are not compatible communities, and hence we must live separately in different countries. Okay, and the ideology that these terrorist organizations follow has a very strong base in that two-nation theory as well as other things. Okay, so I'm not going to mince my words in this, but anyone who says कि वो dialogue क्यों डाला, अरे जब वो है उनकी mentality और उस mentality की वजह से वो हमें attack कर रहे हैं, तो आपको उस dialogue से क्या problem है? You don't have a problem with the dialogue. You have a problem with वो dialogue क्यों डाला? क्योंकि वो dialogue के basis पे ही वो hijacking हुई थी. Otherwise, do you think that anyone has the courage to hijack a plane and take it from country to country? Do you think people just ऐसे ही कर लेते हैं? उनमें इतना hate होता है, उनमें इतना वो होता है जज्बा to attack the people that they're attacking. They're driven by, they don't care for their lives. They are driven by other things, So वो ऐसे नहीं हो जाता है. वो बहुत उससे होता है. And the sooner you accept this reality and you face the truth, the less stressed you will be in your brain, because the truth is much easier to deal with than a fake reality and bubble that you want to grow up in. So that was one thing I wanted to say. If you watch Ajit Doval's statements because he was the main negotiator. He has said that वो इतने डरे हुए थे hostages when I addressed them on the plane that when I said Bharat Mata ki Jai Jai Hind, they were too scared to say it.
हवाई जहाज के अंदर स्वयं गया था और मैं उनके कॉकपिट के रास्ते नीचे की लैडर से गया था और मैंने सारे के सारे हाईजैकर्स सारे के सारे पैसेंजर्स को एड्रेस किया था और सारे के सारे पैसेंजर्स को मैंने ये कहा था हाईजैकर भी वहाँ पर थे कि आप लोग आज़ाद हैं और भारत की सरकार और भारत देश पूरा आपके साथ है और हम आप लोगों को यहाँ से सुरक्षित ले जाएंगे, है ना। उसके बाद जब मैंने उनसे कहा कि बोलिए भारत माता की जय या जय हिंद, तो उन्होंने रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं किया। मुझे इस बात का जरूर बना था कि ये लोग इतने डरे हुए थे।
That's how much they had been traumatized. And then first-hand accounts of those people also, talk about how I think there was a couple of men who were killed in Amritsar. And whose bodies were handed over in Dubai. There was someone's throat that was slit. They showed that, and the fact that they showed it in the first scene itself tells you that ye hua hai, guys. This is just, you may not like seeing it, but it is what it is. It has happened. And the hostages, unke accounts agar aapne padhe hain, you should go and read them. They were proselytizing to those guys in the flight using the PA system in the plane. So you have to understand that dialogue is not out of place. We did give them 3 prisoners back, which I think was a failure. It was a failure, and I felt so bad for Ajit Doval. So during that scene, I was just like, imagine the level of frustration. No wonder he had retired, because he must have been so pissed off with the way things had been throughout his career. No wonder he retired and then he came back, because imagine. So we've given them these 3 prisoners of ours back, and those 3 prisoners created havoc. Okay, just letting them go that day at the Kandahar airport was one of the biggest failures of the Indian government at that time. So we are not trying to whitewash our own failures. We are highlighting them because this is exactly as it happened. And I was a kid. So I was a kid, and as you know, I grew up in Oman. We were watching this, and I can't remember. I think I was, memory itni wo nahi hai, but I think they were debating to land in Muscat or Dubai. We didn't know. So so it was a bit of, and we were watching the thing on the news. We saw when the plane had landed in Dubai, we saw that some hostages, I don't know, 25, 26, kuch number tha, some hostages were released over there, including the body of the guy they had murdered. And at that time, our government's relationships with, the UAE, or they were not what they are today. So those of you who criticize, foreign trips and this and that, it's building blocks. It's building blocks. Anyway, it's because mistakes were made and have been learned from that they are being fixed. Anyway, coming back, it was just so frustrating to see Ajit Doval in that scene, or Ajay Sanyal. And right there, I was like, yeah. So you see what happened there. One failure, and that resulted in the deaths of so many more people, because those 3 people released that day caused so much more chaos down the line. So now we did that. Then we went straight into the Parliament attack. Now this one, I don't have any personal memory of. I just remember hearing about it on the news, and probably reading headlines about it. I saw it on screen, and I was shook, because I was like, 1 second, this is how it happened. Because the day before I had gone to see the movie, I was on Twitter, X, at night, and the lady constable जिनको शूट किया है, उनका किसी ने ट्वीट किया था, when these movies come out, people start digging out कि कौन था ये, and they start posting about them that she was this and this is what she did. She noticed the car driving through the barricades and immediately alerted the guys to close the gate, and it was her quick reaction that caused a lot of lives to be saved. वरना वो अंदर जाके it was a fidayin attack, right? So अंदर जाके वो bomb blast कर देते on the floor of the house. So because of her, it got avoided. And so when I was watching it, I was like, oh shit, I just read about this last night. And she was right there. She was bartering mithai. And the way it all happened, because I remember seeing clips of the guys outside, right, by the pillars and in the area वहाँ पे shooting चल रही थी. वो सब scenes याद हैं थोड़े बहुत, TV पे देखे. But the whole attack, the way it was, oh man, the level of research that went into just that one scene, I was like, man, you know what? Now I've actually been able to see it as it happened. And that is infuriating me because हमने जैसे पहले रिस्पॉन्स किया था उसकी वजह से वो इतने एम्बोल्डन हो गए कि वो अम, अब आके हमारे पार्लियामेंट पे अटैक कर रहे हैं इन आवर कैपिटल सिटी in the building where the elected leaders of our country sit. Can you imagine? I mean, do you understand the gravity of that? They were that bold that they did that. It's not something that Aditya Dhar dreamt up. It happened. And unless you're super like, like the audacity, वो कम नहीं हो रही थी, वो बढ़ती जा रही थी. और anyway, so that happened and I was just like, man, Aditya, thank you for showing us this attack. मैंने तो देखा ही नहीं था कैसे हुआ था और कैसे वो गाड़ी आई थी और कैसे वो लोग निकले थे गन्स के साथ और बॉम्ब्स पहन के और ये वो. It was just, man. So now that it has come to our house, like where we sit, our office, our boardroom, then that's enough of a trigger to get them to say, okay, we've got to respond somehow. We've got to do something. I mean, and anyway, I'll come to that. But so now in the story, he has met Madhavan's character. He has met the minister, who we all know who he was back in the day, who that actor was based on. And he has said, okay, chalo, हम आपका ये covert operation approve कर देते हैं, बाकी चीजें तो हमसे नहीं हो पाएंगी, And I was just like, oh my God, like so frustrating, right? So irritating. Anyway, so that's what it was. And now our story starts actually rolling, and suddenly we see Ranveer. And I was loving the fact that we had zero backstory. We had no idea who this spy is. बस उन्होंने कह दिया कि अब हम धुरंधर लॉन्च कर रहे हैं और ये होगा और हम इन्फिल्ट्रेट करेंगे और आए भाई साहब और हेलीकॉप्टर में चढ़ के पहुंच गए, ड्रॉप ऑफ हो गए. And we're like, hey, who is he? Where is he from? What is his background? Like, we don't know. We don't know. So I love that they did that because the storytelling is like mind blowing. Because वो सब अब हमें part 2 में दिखेगा, which at the time we didn't know कि part 2 होने वाला है. We were just like, अच्छा अब आ गए हमारे एजेंट. कौन है, कहाँ से आए हैं, हमें नहीं पता, but आ गए, right? As the story unfolds, you get more and more curious about him because he keeps getting flashbacks through the film. And you're like, oh, इसके साथ कुछ तो हुआ होगा that he's chosen to live this life and he's chosen to go on this mission. I mean, एक साल के लिए तो वो झाड़ू ही लगा रहा है, I was like, what is going on? How is this man so motivated? क्या हुआ था इसकी life में, right? Which is exactly what I was thinking about Aditya Dhar as the film ended. I was like, क्या हुआ है आदित्य की life में कि वो इतने beautiful, टेक्निकली ब्रिलियंट फिल्म मेकर तो बने ही हैं बिकॉज होगा नर्डनेस उनके कैरेक्टर में, उनकी पर्सनालिटी में. बट ऐसे ऐसा मोटिवेशन लाना कोई वो नहीं होता कि अच्छा अभी नेशनलिस्ट फिल्म्स चल रही हैं तो मैं ऐसा फिल्म नहीं. It doesn't come from that superficial layer. It comes from much, much deeper stuff. So anyway, coming back, this character also had deep motivations, and we don't know anything about those deep motivations. We just see him getting there. Then he makes his way to Lyari, and then the detailing, by the way, of the sets, gorgeous. Like, hats off to the production team, the crew, every single person, every single technician who has worked on this film can just retire. I'm just saying, because आपकी legacy sealed है, आपकी legacy sealed है. You have not left any stone unturned to present a world to us that is near impossible to create as it is. So that being said, he makes his way now to Lyari, and पहले ही रात को उनके साथ बहुत weird चीजें हो रही थी. But again, I was like, ठीक है, सुना है ये सब होता है, बहुत common. And that area was anyway the ghetto, notorious for all of that. It's not that Aditya Dhar is saying it. There's enough and more documentation around it, including some artists that y'all only follow. I don't anymore, but everyone knows what Karachi was and is, probably was maybe, and that area was all about. So that being said, the whole 1 year thing that they placed in the film. See, I'm trying to remember scene by scene. I told you there's not going to be a short review, guys. It's going to be like I'm living it through a reaction. So bear with me. The 1 year that he spends there, एक तो पहले ही रात उसको किया वो सब, and I'm like, आप पहले ही नहीं बुला लेते उसको अंदर जॉब दे देते, वरना बेचारा उधर वो हो गया उसके साथ. Poor guy. He yeah, for 1 year he's doing jhadu, even though the guy whose shop he's working in, with someone told me is Gaurav Gera. Is it Gaurav Gera in Dhurandhar, that character of the juice wala? Yeah, yeah, Mohammed Alam disguised as a juice vendor in the Lyari market, that was Gaurav Gera. मुझे बाद में किसी ने बताया. So that's Gaurav Gera, and he knows कि ये है, यहाँ पे करना है, पर उसने भी 1 साल लगाया. So they didn't talk about the spy stuff till, or at least that's my understanding of it. I was like, ये 1 साल से क्यों कर रहा है? If he's reached the right person, why? But I don't know. That part I'm a little bit confused about. If you all know, then comment below. बता दो कि, I mean, उसको पता था कि क्या वो चिल्ला रहा होगा street में. So he got to the right place. He would have just said कि यार, I am the guy who's been sent. You are, we are on the same team. वो conversation 1 साल तक नहीं हुआ. So anyway, I don't know. So that happened. Maybe it was just trust establishment. Who knows? I don't know. So वो हुआ, और फिर 1 साल बाद कब he finally trusted him enough to help him, took him for that salt वाली चाय, है ना, and told him कि ये और infiltrate करना है gang को, तो ये हो सकता है. And then he introduced him to that other spy who gave him the info. Now, all the action, by the way, and the attack on the sun, that whole thing as it played out, introduces us finally to Akshay Khanna. And oh God, I mean, मैं जितना बोलूंगी उतना कम होगा, and other people have praised him enough, and he is the big standout star. For me, him and Rakesh Bedi honestly were the two standout stars of this entire undertaking. But that aside, we get introduced to that whole world, and it starts progressing from there. I have to say that Ranveer, and I said this before, I think in the trailer reaction, Ranveer is the kind of actor, is a director's actor. And the kind of roles that he can play, nobody else in this generation of actors can do. And Bajirao is the shining example of that. The kind of restraint that he showed as an actor in Gully Boy, which, by the way, I love that movie. I went and watched it twice, I think. That kind of restraint you see in this, because क्या चल रहा है, अब आप सोच रहे हो कि ये स्पाई तो है, okay, और वो गैंग में शामिल भी हो गया है, लेकिन ये कुछ कर क्यों नहीं रहा है? Like, outwardly you would have scenes where he's like, oh, this is happening, oh, okay, let me send the message, oh, ये हो रहा है, like वैसे scenes you kind of expect कि information pass हो रही है, लेकिन वो पहली बार जब पास हुई तो वो रिक्शा के हैंडल में नोट था, correct? And that also happened after a long time after the story had progressed. So you're thinking, has this guy now just said, this is my life and I'm going to live this life? I have forgotten about being a spy. Like, I was almost there, wondering about that. And then this thing happened. Now, one more thing that was interjected into the story was the notes. I commend Aditya Dhar for highlighting that, because the timeline that he's chosen to put his story into is so relevant and so important, because all the bullshit went on in those years that either and you can call it propaganda. I honestly, anyone who calls this propaganda can just go and first read the definition of propaganda. Sorry, please apni definition kar lo, theek, because this is all exactly as it happened. The fact of the matter is, it was an issue. Everyone knew it was an issue. Everyone knew that there was fake currency in our country, in our markets, and it was a very big national concern, a huge national concern. And obviously our agents are not sitting, they're not dumb, they know what's going on. And it was so good that he showed through the story suddenly ki acha, inke paas plates aa gaye. Like, how did that happen? He's passed on that information, and wahan pe they're like, how did this happen? Get on it, let's find out. And then they found out, and they're just like, oh my god, like, this is, it's so irritating to when you remember all those things, because we have the memories of goldfishes. We have the memory of a goldfish. Now we don't really remember all these things, but imagine the level of compromise and like, it's very frustrating to even do this movie review, because it just makes me like get annoyed कि हमारे अपने ministers ने जाके ये सब चीजें कर दी. और like he said, Doval in the film, I mean Sanyal, He's like, most of our enemies are number 1 in our own country only. नंबर 2 पे आते हैं नेबर्स. बट ठीक है, तो वो हुआ और हमें at least like I didn't know the background as much as I read now after watching the movie. And that is one very, very important thing that I need to say in this review is that the movie has not just given us this technically brilliant film that we can marvel at the actors' skills, which we know they all have. We can marvel at the technical brilliance of the crew, which we know Aditya Dhar and crew have. We've seen it in Uri and all the other undertakings. But this movie has forced us, and this was the intent of Aditya Dhar when he was conceptualizing and storyboarding this entire thing. The intent was to remind us of these things so that we go back and we say, ye seriously, ye hua tha, kya hua tha exactly? Let me look it up. You know, that is the intent, to get you curious, to get you to go and look it up, to get you to read, find credible sources and uncover the truth, find first-hand accounts, find interviews of people, podcasts of people who were on ground dealing with that shit, you know, like that is also the job of this film, and the intent, I feel, to wake you up into action, or at least to wake you up into knowledge. So that happened. I was just sitting there when Doval's team was giving him the update कि ये कैसे हुआ, plates कैसे आए, and then that whole Delaru firm का background और ये सब history सब जो दिखाया जा रहा था, the meeting in Dubai between those ISI guys and these guys, all of that was being shown. I was just sitting there going, oh man, just why? So अगर मैं यहाँ बैठ के इतनी फ्रस्ट्रेट हो रही हूँ और आप भी एज नेशनलिस्ट इंडियंस एंड पेट्रियोटिक इंडियंस, अगर आप भी ये फील कर रहे हैं while watching the film, आपको क्या आप इमेजिन कर सकते हैं the level of frustration of our intelligence agencies? Can you imagine the level of frustration? And I'm not saying they never got it wrong. They, of course, missed. But like you have to keep reminding yourself every time there's an attack that goes through, like the one we just suffered last month in Delhi. They have to succeed just once, man. The number of times these guys succeed and we don't even hear about it in the news, and the number of attacks they stop, we just need to be eternally grateful to them. And also, after they've lived through what they've lived through, if you know the history of Raw and IB, you would be forever, like, from the bottom of your heart, indebted to them for life. I mean, if you don't know about all these things, please go and read. Please go and do this thing. Because if I talk about it here, it will just boil my blood even more. Anyway, so wo sab hua, and then he's sending the information, and the story unfolds, and like you all were telling me in the last reaction, ki nahi, love story is very relevant. And then somebody commented, by the way, on my reaction video of Gera hua, where I was like, oh, kya gana hai, sold. I'm sold on this love story, very good. It works. But I obviously was also added the caveat ki ye relevant hogi story ke liye, right? Tabhi dali hogi, because Aditya Dhar is not, thank God he's not from that camp of filmmakers that decide to, have these love angles faltu ke. So very relevant. And someone commented say ki he's not in love with her, he is grooming her, and I just dislike that word. But then I was like, oh, 1 second, that's why she's so young, that's why he's, oh. And now when I'm thinking back, I'm like, holy crap, that suave cool guy who's looking at her at the rally, then he goes after her at the club, then he damages her car so she can't leave. Then he's all like, oh, main aapko ghar tak walk kar oh my God, it's true. This guy was spying the whole time. The spy was spying. It's all the big plan that he had in mind, and we are not getting to see any of it. We are going to get to see it in part 2. And you know what actually got me was that diary that he handed to him on the bridge that day after the 26th level. We'll get to that diary, and he's like, okay, here. And I was like, what is this? And then, later we see in that post 2611 thing where he's now actually come into full on spy mode. Abhi tak to nahi ho raha tha. Full on spy mode ho raha hai, and he's writing in that diary every night with that invisible ink, right? So anyway, now when I think back, I'm like, oh yes, that was the situation with her. He is getting her to be fully in love with him, so that he can, use this angle in the future for his political and personal gain. I like it. I mean, I don't like it because किसी को भी धोखा देना प्यार में is not something I will condone, but Nation first. Let's leave it at that. Sorry. So the story moves along. This whole thing happens. I really liked her acting. Sara Arjun was really good. And I think interval कब हुआ था? हाँ, where Arjun Rampal says कि हमने spy को पकड़ लिया है ना? कि उन्होंने खबर पहुंचा दी, and so now we are not. And at this point, he has delivered the guns. He has delivered the guns to the guy, and Kasab and his buddies have come and taken the gun. He's personally handed it over. And we are like, "Hai saab, ye kya ho raha hai?" And I was marveling at the level of technical sort of detailing. You know, when they first walked into that meeting room, first of all, kya hi wo scene tha? Kya hi wo scene tha when all these, you know, in any sort of gangster movie and any of these kind of drama, action, crime movies, when all the main characters are in one room, you can literally cut the tension with a knife, right? And those scenes are some of the most legendary scenes in these in movie history. And this scene is one of them. The first time they all meet, and then they're all talking कि हमें ये guns चाहिए और ये guns चाहिए. And Akshay Khanna doesn't say a fucking word except at the end कि you know धोखा मत देना और रहमान डकैत की दी हुई मौत बड़ी कसाई नुमा होती है. The way he delivered that line. So
रहमान डकैत की दी हुई मौत बड़ी कसाई नुमा होती है.
And the funniest thing, when he finished delivering it, I got chills, and I was thinking, but he's delivering this line to Arjun Rampal, who is the head of ISI, who probably every day does Kasai Numa things, you know, and he's probably going to get back to one of those things after this meeting. I was just like, is it going to have any effect? But then next thing they pan to Arjun Rampal's face, and he's just like, he gives that little laugh, right? And you're like, what is that laugh? Is that like, oh, I found one of my own? Or, acha, you're going to threaten me. You have no idea who I am or what I do. You know, you can't really tell what that laugh or that little dry chuckle was, but it was so brilliantly enacted. I have to give mad props to Arjun Rampal for sure, for sure. Because if you don't walk out of the cinema hating him, then he didn't do a good enough job, right? And that's exactly what you walk out of the cinema. You just hated him. You just literally wanted to. Anyways, so wo hua, and in that scene, Ranveer is in the background, and his cousin, Akshay Khanna's cousin brother. By the way, that actor, freaking brilliant. You know what? Let me look this up. Guy throughout the film, I think he is not being praised enough. Okay, let me just say it very, like, we are praising Akshay, of course, we are praising even Ranveer, we are praising everyone, Sanjay Dutt, we are praising Rakesh Bedi ji, we are praising everyone, but Danish Pandor, I hope I'm saying his name right, man, he has acted like every scene, it's like he is that guy. Like, you don't even feel like it's an actor, he is that guy. So that scene, he's responding on behalf of Rahman Dakait for every sentence. And that guy who plays Khanani, right? First of all, again, based on a real person, Khanani is evil, man. Just creepy and evil looking. So all these people are sitting in a room, working to hurt India, and they probably still even do. You know, there's still enough and more conspirators on that mission. But that scene was just, I feel like, one of the best scenes in the film. Just amazing. And now they come back to deliver the guns. That's when the interval happened, right? In that scene, sorry, what I was getting to, the level of detailing in that scene, they got David Headley's different colored eyes also. If you all remember who David Headley is, if you don't, please look it up. I'm sure most of you know who David Headley is. He is the guy who recceed every single place in India that was attacked on 26/11. And because he's an American national, it never flagged off. And he was, I think, 2 साल तक वो था या आता जाता रहता था to record all the videos, to take all the photos. I mean, based on only his intel, and I think Tawur Rana, I can't remember. Yeah, I think Tawur Rana also. Based on their intel, that entire terror plot happened, was put together. Yeah, so one sec. He had contacted David Headley 231 times during his visits to India ahead of the 26/11 carnage. Rana conducted 8 reconnaissance missions, and the highest number of calls, 66, were made during the final visit before the attack. And according to dossier, Rana and Headley had mapped other targets in India, including the National Defense College and India Gate in Delhi and multiple Jewish centers as part of their plan to carry out spectacular terror attacks. The charge sheet on him details that Rana, along with Headley, Hafiz Saeed, Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, Ilyas Kashmiri, Sajid Mir, and Major Iqbal, among others, conspired to orchestrate the terror attack. Investigation by both India and the US confirmed that Rana's Chicago-based immigration firm, First World Immigration Services, was used as a front to facilitate Headley's entry into India. As Rana was a deserter from the army, Headley offered to provide assistance through his connection with Major Iqbal. It is just amazing. It's just amazing how these guys were shown in the movie. So I must say, Danish Pandor, amazing, amazing. What a brilliant actor. So that was him, Uzair Baloch. Now, which reminds me, speaking of Baloch, we all know that, I mean, maybe we all don't know, maybe the Baloch are fighting for their independence. But it was on X, a few tweets that I read where, you know, some Baluchi organizations and people were like, you know, we are a Baluch's word is written in stone and we never go back on it, and we were not portrayed in the right way. And I feel like the people who were saying that got it wrong, because the entire point was to show that you had a black sheep. Why did Ranveer get pissed off with Akshay Khanna? Because he's like, you're betraying our own people. And Akshay Khanna was like, what our own people? You know, like that whole scene that played out. So we also have black sheep in our country. I can name 5 right off the top of my head right now. But that is what the story was. But the actual like imagery and projection and stuff of the Baloch people and the fight that they're fighting up in the mountains and how they're burying people, how their school ka water is being poisoned, and like those are on ground realities, you know, of what they have gone through as a people and continue to go through even today. So I don't think the film was portraying the Baluchi people in a bad light at all. I just feel like if you really understood the story and what was going on with the characters in it, you'll eventually land on that. And I think on X मैंने देखा है अभी कि काफी लोग बोल रहे हैं Baluchis. Yeah, you guys have it's not an anti-Baluch film at all. Okay, so like I was saying, can you imagine the frustration of our you know, intelligence services and the raw agents and the raw heads at the time? I believe some of them have even, like, after retiring, they've written books about that whole era and everything that is shown in the movie, including all their thoughts and the things they were saying, and you know, the what is it, the foreshadowing that was going on in the dialogues. A lot of people will say, oh, ये तो you know, ये तो government की film है और आदित्य धार अब government का spokesperson बन गया है और सब वो दिखा रहा है. अरे आदित्य धार की गलती है कि पहले ऐसी गवर्नमेंट थी या ऐसे हम यू नो वीक अपने आप को प्रोजेक्ट करते थे कि हम रिस्पॉन्स नहीं करते थे. आई मीन कम ऑन गाइस, समवन एंटर्ड आवर पार्लियामेंट का कॉम्प्लेक्स एंड ट्राई टू अटैक द बिल्डिंग फ्रॉम वेयर एवरीथिंग स्टेम्स इन दिस कंट्री, और हमारा कुछ रिस्पॉन्स नहीं हुआ. somebody entered our economic capital, you know, Bombay City, and we did not respond. Like that, to me, okay, you know what, we'll come to that scene. But I was saying, imagine their frustration and imagine the chiefs of Army, Navy, and Air Force who had to live through that era. It's like your fighters were ready, man. Your fighters were ready. They had the means. They had, you know, they had done what they needed to do in all the wars before. They were very capable of taking on the enemy that was constantly attacking you and your people. They were there and they were advising them. अब आदित्य धार की थोड़ी गलती है कि कोई एक्शन लिया ही नहीं गया. आदित्य धार तो वही बता रहा है जो हुआ ना हिस्ट्री में, उससे आपको इतनी प्रॉब्लम क्यों हो रही है? It's the truth. Whether it's pro or anti, that's irrelevant. The truth is the truth. And how can something be, like, I sent this thing to my friend. She's quite a prominent media personality. And it was about, you know, people calling the film propaganda or whatever. And she was like, how can the truth be propaganda? That it just because it doesn't fit your bias or your worldview doesn't mean it's propaganda. Please look up the definition of that word. Anyway, so अब आदित्य धार की गलती नहीं है कि चीजें ऐसे हुई. And even some of the dialogues that he put in were foreshadowing what is to come, right? And what we have already lived through the last 10 years. So at the time we didn't know this was going to come, but our intelligence, like when Ajay Sanyal says he's like, we should take action against these people who've, given our plates, our note making plates to the enemy. He's like, we can't, because nothing will come out of it. We might only get suspended. So let's just keep watching and let's just keep being patient, because observation and patience, that's the name of the game for us right now. And keep collecting proofs and keep collecting all the intel you can get at some point. And I mean, this is also Chanakya Niti. You have to wait for the opportune moment. Either way, we didn't know if the opportune moment would ever come. Quite honestly, we didn't know. But I just doff my hat to every single agent and official and officer and all of that, because बहुत ही वो होता है उस रियलिटी को जीना और इतना हेल्पलेस और फ्रस्ट्रेटेड फील करना, डिस्पाइट नोइंग कि योर फाइटर्स आर रेडी मैन, दे आर इन द रिंग, you just need to give the order and they will do the deed. But nahi hua, and so many officers have retired today. Just think about them. They retired, and in their career and in their tenure they were not able to, and they are the guardians of the nation. They are the ones who were selected for that job. And anyway, you know what, it just, अगर मैं इतनी frustrated हो रही थी वहां पे बैठ के, imagine. So वो एक point I had to make in this. And anyone who and I'm not addressing anyone who's not Indian here, because the movie is made mainly for us only, mainly for us to reflect, understand, and expand maybe our knowledge and our mind, and even our sort of view of things. Because, and I was like this in my younger years. I was also very like, oh, ye ho raha hai, oh, government ye kar rahi hai. You also get swayed by the tide, and it's very easy to just have it happen naturally, especially when you're surrounded by people of a certain ideology and all of that. But don't fall into that trap. Eventually you will hopefully eventually figure it out and learn the truth, and then you'll be like, oh god, I was so dumb. What was I thinking? Why didn't I look this up? So anyway, coming back, the interval scene happened, and he said कि हमने पकड़ लिया है spy को. और वहां पे वो होता है, like, does he know that Ranveer is the spy? But no, we come back, and again he's now taking him to his torture chamber where he's torturing the spy. We can't see the face. There are too many. एक तो मुझे दिख ही नहीं रहा था. There was so much blood. Was it hooks? Was it nails? Like, what was it? I don't know. And now they're establishing Arjun Rampal's character a little more, because I feel like इस पूरी फिल्म में part 1 में उनका रोल इतना नहीं था, except the main plotting, planning and execution of 2611. His scenes are very limited. But even in those scenes, and mad props to him, because even in those scenes he played his part so well. He's that he's not very theatrical and loud, but he is evil, and he's got that quality, and Arjun Rampal nailed it. So now that scene post the interval where they showed him torturing someone, वो scene दिखाने की जरूरत नहीं थी, because story would have moved along anyway. But what I was thinking about this after is that why did they show that scene, and also why did they open the trailer with that scene? So that's a very important question to ask, because why was Aditya Dhar intent on showing us the very grotesque and very gory torture and violence and all of that? So then I thought about it, and I'm like, because come on, again we go back to the things that have shaped his worldview, and the things that him and his community have probably witnessed or seen or heard of and experienced. And there's that collective this thing, and plus that this stuff happens, and that our spy thrillers have never shown the real side of being a spy, where you're literally alone in enemy territory, and at any point your government can disown you. And it has happened in the past also. So you're risking all of that, and you're going and you're living this very lonely life, and you can like imagine, right? And then जो लोग पकड़े गए हैं past में, I mean, you guys should Google this, Saurav Kalyal from the army, and like so many officers, so many people, and the way they have been tortured, who is ever going to show you that on screen? Who is ever going to bring that harsh reality in front of you and say, look, you're being sold a very warped sense of reality. You're being sold a very warped sense of the spy world and the intelligence world, and the world where we are constantly under attack. And you need to you can choose what you want to do with it or do nothing with it, but at least know that this is what it entails, and this is what the people on the front lines have to face. So I feel like that was just because you all saw my reaction in the trailer wala thing. I was immediately like, I couldn't watch it. I covered my eyes. And then in the movie, the second half opens with this. By this time, by the way, 2 hours have gone by and it has felt like 2 minutes. You're so engrossed in the story. You're like, what? It's interval time. And then you look at your what? It's been 2 hours. So wo hua. But now we are establishing Arjun Rampal's character and kind of building to the 2611 wala scene. And I read this in Arjun Rampal's interview. He says ki that was the most difficult scene um, of his career for him to shoot and for him to enact because firstly, he's a Mumbaikar, right? So just from that standpoint. And then secondly, it's a whole other level of evil. It's a whole other level of evil that was behind those attacks and that was handling that attack. And now you are playing that voice, जिसकी actual recordings हम सबने सुनी है, correct? और वो film में भी place हुई. And I love, again, Aditya Dhar, man, freaking hats off to you for that placement of those call recordings because I think especially now this year after 2 attacks have already happened on us and a semi-war or war, I think the collective awakening needs to happen, and that can only happen through a shock and through a jolt, to your senses that boss, if you've forgotten or if you weren't around when this happened, this is what happened, and these were the real actual conversations that were recorded. And I just, that scene is just cinematic brilliance, not just in its in the acting and in the execution of it, but in just the thought of it and the details. Like, okay, we'll place this, we'll have Headley in the room, we'll have these guys, just the ones who supplied the guns, we'll have that angle, the ones who financed the whole thing, the ones who, the masterminds of the terror attack. We'll have all of that, and we'll have them on the phone, and we'll have everyone in the room cheering and kind of just showing us what that attack was about. A lot of people I read have had a problem with the chanting that was going on in the room. They're like, "Ye nahi sikhana chahiye." Arey, but it's not against anyone in India. It's against those people with that mentality and that motivation. Very clear. It's not clear like direction or goal. To corporates mein bhi bosses nahi dete. Just saying. So anyway, point is that scene. I'm not even joking. And I was on these like recliner seats. I was just so like, I think that was the one scene that moved me the most throughout the movie. Throughout the movie, you're not getting bored and you're taking it all in. But that scene, it brought back so many memories. But I was a functioning adult at the time, and we just like when 9/11 happened, I was living in the US, and suddenly we were just told कि कुछ हो रहा है. हमने TV on किया, and we saw the second plane fly into the second tower. Like, we saw it, and we were looking at each other, and we were like, "Is this a movie? Like, what's happening?" Then we saw the live thing in the screen ka corner, right? We were like, "This is live," and the first tower was already on fire. We didn't see the first plane fly into it. We saw the second one. That entire ordeal was repeated 2611 times 20 million because it was our nation under attack, my country, and it was live on TV for 3-4 days. Like, it was live. We were living through it. We were hardly able to sleep, and we were getting up and we were watching it again. And we were just feeling so angry and helpless. पहले मार्कोस आ रहे हैं, फिर NSG आ रहे हैं, फिर टीवी चैनल्स पे ये हो रहा है, फिर यहाँ ब्लास्ट हो रहा है, फिर उस विंग में आग लगी है, फिर we don't know how many hostages are inside. Like, I don't know if Gen Z will understand what we all collectively went through at the time. Of course, if you were there and you have the memories of it, then yes, you will get it. But Gen Alpha does not know at all. It was just the most. And I was living in Dubai at the time. And anyway, I think you all feel what I'm trying to say because a lot of you have felt the same. That sort of how should I say that sort of the memories that have now been buried and they're deep, they were just brought back, and it was, and yeah. So anyway, I feel Arjun Rampal deserves a special award and mention just for enacting that scene the way he did, because couldn't have been easy at all. And I have to say, at this point, the sudden, like, every actor's face, Akshay Khanna suddenly being shown, what he's played a role in making happen. And suddenly he's like, yeah, and he starts celebrating as well, except he's not part of those outfits, right? He's just someone who supplied his expression and the way he became all like was, I was like, oh damn. And then the absolute brilliance in the scene was Ranveer Singh. Just sheer freaking brilliance. I mean, this is one of the best scenes of his entire career. Um, and that's saying a lot because man's had some crazy scenes. But the fact that they mainly had tight shots of him, I mean, how do you not mess up with your expression there? Because ek to you're a spy, you cannot reveal. Upar se the shock that you're experiencing internally, and the sense of what did I do? What did I do? I literally handed the guy the gun. Like, what the hell have I just played a role in making happen? Like that realization, the guilt, the shame, probably the frustration, the anger as someone watching his nation burn and watching his people die, and having to just suppress all of it and chant along with them. I mean, that too with tight shots of just his face. Oh my God. I can't get over that scene. I can't get over that scene. And I doff my hat to every single person from Aditya to Ranveer to Arjun to all the actors in that room. And yeah. And uske baad jo unhone place kiye call recordings. I see a lot of these critics having a problem with that also. What is your problem with that? What is your problem with that? That is a real life historical, data point. Those call recordings exist, and they were very, very relevant to the moment that event was being shown in the film. So what is wrong with placing them there? Absolutely nothing. You have to, like, I don't know why people like to stick their heads into the sand and just pretend कि ये तो हुआ ही नहीं, या हुआ तो why are we remembering it again? Why should we not? Do the Americans not do Never Forget 9/11? Don't they do that every year? Don't they have tributes and tributes and tributes and stories and stories and stories? Every website, every platform, every channel talking about it, posting it, interviewing survivors, going back to that day, reliving it, re-reminding people कि ये हुआ था हमारे nation में, हमारी country के साथ. Don't they do it? Of course they do. So what is your problem if it's being shown in a movie? What is your problem with reality? you know I don't get people like that. I really don't. Like, you really need to take a look at yourself, because you all have lost your way. And I'm addressing every supposed film critic and whoever has tried to uh, trash this film for all these reasons. Anyway, so that said, like, your ideology and your leanings should not make you so anti-national, should not make you so anti-India. This is a movie about your country being under attack. So leave your politics aside, okay? And okay, anyway, I will just. So then that happened. We must talk about how the film progressed from there on, because that was the turning point, है ना? And वो scene जो उनका bridge पे था, where the two spies meet each other, and this one is so like, it was palpable. His anger, his frustration, his like, what the hell happened? We gave them the intelligence. What the hell happened? We told them. And that again is not glorifying our country. It was highlighting the failures, and there were intelligence failures. There was somebody dropped the ball, or many people dropped many balls. I'm just saying. So yeah, anyone calling, like, part one to me was just setting the scene. It's setting the scene for the main plot. अब वो main plot में भी, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, I have now destroyed everyone and I have become. I think even the main plot and part two, and I could be wrong about this, will also end on a note which is neither here nor there. This is what it is. And now, as time has gone by, we have changed as a nation, because now we respond to things that happen. We don't take it lying down anymore. I mean, you guys, again, I will say this. The ones who lived through it and have the memory of it will be on the same page. The ones who haven't, please know that there was no other time period in the history of our nation where I have felt, or all of us collectively felt, as frustrated by the lack of response after 26/11. It was very real, and it was very, very, very frustrating. And it still took another 6 years for things to change. Oh, डॉसियर आफ्टर डॉसियर इज बीइंग सेंट, रिकॉर्डिंग्स आ गई, सब प्रूफ्स मिल गए, सब शेयर करे जा रहे हैं, हम कर रहे हैं आपके साथ कोऑपरेट, और आपको बोल रहे हैं कि करते हैं हम एक साथ इन्वेस्टिगेशन, ये वो सब हो चुका है हमारी हिस्ट्री में। तो आज के टाइम में और आज के डेट में अगर कोई बोलता है कि हमने तो ऑफर किया था कि हम कलेक्टिवली इन्वेस्टिगेट करेंगे, भाई साहब वो सब हो चुका है, वो सब हो चुका है, आपका नाटक बहुत हो चुका है, हम सबने देख लिया है, वी हैव ऑल लिव्ड थ्रू इट। And I'm not addressing the average neighbor who also wants peace. I'm not. But I'm sorry, your country is not run by all the peace-loving people. It's not. The people in power and the people calling the shots do not want us to survive as a nation. Okay? आप लोगों के अपने leaders speeches देते हैं रोज हमारे against with all the hatred in their words. So let's just be real about things, right? We have done the investigations, we have done the dossiers, we have done the diplomatic routes. And a lot of people don't even know this. 2014 से लेके जब तक उरी हुआ, पुलवामा हुआ, वो सब, we still, we still try to extend our hand of friendship. I mean, our PM even went for your PM's birthday and शादी का कुछ घर की शादी में अटेंडेंस भी करी उन्होंने, और उसके बाद हमारे यहाँ अटैक हुआ, और फिर जब हमने आपको बुलाया इन्वेस्टिगेट करो एक साथ, वो भी हुआ, और उसके बाद क्या हुआ, आपने जाके बोला कि ये तो इंडिया ने खुद कराया है अटैक अपने ऊपर। आई मीन समवेयर वी हैव टू ड्रॉ द लाइन, somewhere we have to draw the line. So I mean, that entire episode, the way it was shown, I was just like, oh my god, I'm glad Aditya Dhar did this. I'm just glad. And he took that story of his with his characters and he placed it in the right time period, because we must know this stuff. Okay, we need to know it and we need to remember it and we need to never forget. So that happened. I have to say, I've just made some notes here, so I may jump here and there, but in the story, the turning point happened. You could see his eyes change, okay, after this scene, and now he's like, okay, I was honestly thinking, जैसे मैंने पहले बोला कि I was thinking कि ये spy है, भूल गया क्या? He's decided भाई यही बस जाता हूँ, क्योंकि कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा है। कभी एक दो बार उसने कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन पास करी है, लेकिन ज्यादा कुछ हो नहीं रहा है। He's just living his life as a gangster. Now we start seeing man's mind at work. And later we'll realize that throughout this entire period where we thought nothing was happening, he was actually working on things, which again, the love story and all that was one angle of it. So anyway, now he's like on a mission, man's on a mission, and he's like, ab main karunga pura execution. And what brilliant, by the way, that second half picked up its pace in a different kind of way. You don't realize it's picked up pace because suddenly you're like, okay, what's he gonna do? Why is he calling that guy for chai? अब settle हो I was like, शादी करके settle होने का plan हो गया है, seal. And then you realize, oh, hold on one second. That scene between him and Rakesh Bedi, again, a master class in acting. I just cannot with the two of them. I think their scenes were so good, and every scene that Rakesh Bedi was in, every twitch of his facial muscle, every look he gave, his speech on stage, his acting, it's just man's in a different league. Man's in a different league. But that scene between Ranveer and him was like, oh, this guy, very angry, does not like him, hates him, ye kya, whatever, mujhe sikhayega, kal ka bachcha, ye wo. And then when he suggests what he suggests, the way his ears perk up, his eyes change, and he's like, here's something I can work with. My God, that entire scene was beautiful, gorgeous. And then you're like, oh shit, where is this story going now? So wo hua, I loved it. Guys, I'm sorry if this is long, but I am trying to remember the movie as is and talk about it as I would in a reaction video. That scene, I like details. I like specifics. So bear with me. Just saying. That scene was so good. It was so good, man. अब उसके बाद फिर all that happened and Sanjay Dutt. I mean, I love Sanjay Dutt, but I feel like of all the actors and of all the things, I think he did the job. He got the assignment he was given. He looked the part, and he did it. But I don't know. I feel like I would have liked to see some new actor in that role, because we've seen Sanjay Dutt doing that kind of role so many times. So that's my only thing. But he did a great job of it, so zero complaints there. But he was funny also. And the thing is, most of us remember him as that Khalnayak. So I think he channeled a lot of that Khalnayak era Sanjay and brought that to the table in this particular movie. But the plotting between the three of them, which became evident later as the scenes were unfolding, was just, oh my God. And I did not honestly expect things to go in the direction they did. I mean, he did write Rahman Dakait in that diary, but I was like, ये तो फिर पूरे ही gang को मिटा देगा ना? How will he kill this guy without killing the rest of the people? But he didn't. Danish is still alive, and Danish is going to be his right-hand man as he takes over, I feel, in part two. And I'm actually very glad that Danish is alive, because what an actor. I want to see more of him on screen in part two. So the way the killing of Rahman Dakait played out, oh my God. हमें पता ही नहीं चला था, शादी हो रही है और फिर ये कुछ डेट बता रहा है. I'm like, why is he doing this? और वो भी डायरी जो खोली उसने, तो वो handwriting उर्दू में लिखा था. So I didn't really understand what is going on. He's giving some date. Then on the date all this is going on, he's like, मैं जाता हूँ. What if he had agreed कि हाँ तू ही जा? Then the whole plot would have ended right there, right? Anyway, it's a movie, so it played out as it should. And that car scene where Akshay Khanna wakes up, and imagine you're in the car with three killer machines. One is sitting there, while two are behind you, and you're still, my God, you're still like, no, I'm not going to stop the car. I'm going to take it where I need to take it. So seriously, that entire scene, the entire ending of it, the way they shoot him in the neck and then keep him alive, I was just admiring the acting within the acting, because Ranveer Singh का character क्या acting करी है उसने रिक्शा में बैठने के बाद, है ना? You're like, acting, so good, so freaking good. Inception हो रहा था. And the way that scene where he has finally, escaped, the soul has left the body, वहां पे जो वो background में श्लोक आया, and the way Ranveer just went back, and the way they showed Akshay Khanna sitting on the thing, lighting a cigarette and looking at him. Oh ho, ऐसा ही ending देना था अक्षय खन्ना के character को, because जाते जाते भी क्या कर गए भाई साहब, है ना? My God, this is, I mean, it's been said enough, but I think I should say it as well. One of Akshay Khanna's best performances ever, and the man has a pile of legendary performances. So bus, now I have run through the film as it is, and then, sorry, but that last, they showed us glimpses from part two. बहुत जल्दी आए. But enough to pique one's curiosity, and also the last look that Ranveer gives the camera. उसका मैंने लिया था photo, शायद I'll put it over here. But ये नया इंडिया है, ये घर में घुसता भी है और मारता भी है. I love that line. So Revenge, March 2026. Just now, it's like around the corner. 2-3, I mean, 1.5 महीने में तो उसका ट्रेलर भी आ जाएगा, I feel, है ना? या 2 महीने में. And then it's just countdown to the release of part 2. They've already shot 7 hours, and I believe it was meant to be a part 1. It was only meant to be a single film. पर अब क्या काटें, और कुछ काट भी नहीं सकते. Look at this. It's one of the longest Hindi films ever made, but not for a second do you feel like looking at your phone or your watch or feel like it's dragging at any point. I have to say that Shararat song in the soundtrack was my least favorite. It's the only skip on the soundtrack for me. And then when it came during the movie, it did make me wonder. It did make me wonder, why did they place this kind of song here? Because the way those women, that whole dance sequences and all of that, I was like, ये होता है क्या शादी पे ऐसा performance? I don't know. But ठीक है. That was the only thing. But every scene, the detailing, the sets, the costumes, the look, and I just want to say, please यार, ये रणवीर सिंह की stylist या cast stylist जो भी है, must we always give him cleavage? Kurtas and shorts, must we always, even in a movie like this, could we not keep the cleavage at bay? We've seen enough of it in Rocky and Rani, okay? Why? What was the need? He could have just worn a normal, kurta pajama. But nahi, hame tight biceps dikhe, cleavage dikhe. And I'm like, unke sath already first night pe hadsa ho chuka hai. Why are you trying to invite more? It's like, telling, why was she dressed like that? I'm saying, why was he dressed like that? Sorry. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Akshay Khanna, man. Style quotient, aura quotient, through the roof. So good, so good. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. The women in this movie, Akshay Khanna's wife, Rahman Dakait's wife, and the love interest, Sara Arjun, both did a really good job, both the actresses. And what I really liked was that in a movie like this, which is all about gangsters and underworld, and spy film, that you can really show women in like weird ways, or you can even show one like abuse kind of scenes or events or whatever, you know what I mean? So you could have shown that, but you just chose not to because I just like that. I really like that. By the way, I researched this because there was a interview of Rakesh Bedi that popped up on my YouTube feed this morning. And thoda sa suna maine. I didn't have time to hear the whole podcast, but he was saying that his interview asked him कि आपका role fictional है या real life पे किसी के based है. So he was like नहीं, अब वो है, वो था real था या है, I don't know, but वो real life politician है और उसी पे based है और मैं नाम नहीं लेना चाहूंगा because I don't know if I should talk about it. So then I, obviously being the curious cat that I am, I was looking it up. और वो comments में ही दिख गया मुझे नाम. So apparently it's based on a politician called Nabil Gabol, Gabol. Nabil Gabol was a politician there, and yeah. So I'm just going to end this with, whenever I see the meltdowns happening against this movie, firstly it's a movie, and itne meltdown to मैंने Kashmir Files के time पे भी नहीं देखे थे, which again was cold, hard, brutal truth. And if you don't want to face it and you just want to stick your head in the sand, then nobody can help you, man. But there are people out there who want to present the truth as it is, the atrocities as they happened, and it is about the collective consciousness, reawakening it, and the truth will always find its way out into the world. As much as it has been tried to be suppressed or swept under the rug or ignored, it will find its way out. And I just am grateful for a filmmaker like Aditya Dhar. I don't even feel like calling this movie Bollywood, as I was telling someone, because I feel like Bollywood has been led by people with a different agenda to, downplay, whitewash, even insult many times the very nation that it breathes in. And the people who did all of that have come to define Bollywood for what it has stood for. And so I would like to take this film and place it outside of that bubble and say, you know what, isko Bollywood mat bulao, isko bas a new wave of Indian cinema bulao, jo Hindi cinema hai. वो सब भी हिंदी सिनेमा है, लेकिन वो सब इतना we'll just call this its own, like let's just call it Hindi cinema, for lack of any other phrase right now. But it is not Bollywood, because Bollywood does not believe in telling the truth as it is, and that's the sad legacy of it so far, with of course very, very few exceptions there are to this, but I'm just so grateful that a filmmaker like Aditya Dhar exists, right from Uri to everything else he's done to this point. He has mastered the technicalities of the craft, and he has come with a beautiful, beautiful intent into this industry, and he is not compromising on his vision and his goal. Every single person associated with this film, Shashwat, Sachdev, your film has carried the scenes, the way the songs played out in the movie. I didn't talk about it here, but the way they carried the movie and paced, I knew that the pacing and the like I was saying in the soundtrack reaction, the BPM range that you have operated in, I could tell this is going to be so, like, it's going to be placed so perfectly in the film to keep the pace going and to keep it looking slick and cool. And Shashwat, you have just beyond. And एक चीज थी जो मैंने point out करी थी in one of the songs, वो bagpipe वाला instrument का use, and I had when I record something, I forget what I said. Well, by the time you guys see the reaction, I have already forgotten मैंने क्या बोला था, but किसी ने comment किया कि हाँ, और मुझे पूरी history बताई उस instrument की जो कहीं और से आई थी. I have not double checked it and cross checked it on Google because I just read it this morning, but that kind of detailing in the music arrangement that Shashwat has done, कि उस region की जो instruments हैं उसको मैं introduce करूंगा, and just beautiful, beautiful. We can do a whole other listening session for the soundtrack and come up with even more things to remember. And the same can be done for the movie. Like, the more number of times you listen, the more number of times you watch, the more nuances and the more specifics you can, new ones you can find. So mad props, everyone. Just thank you, Aditya Dhar Films, for this project. And I did not know that this year was going to end like this, especially on this channel, because I've never really dived into these kind of topics and discussions or even done a movie review. But I think iske liye bahut hi necessary tha, because before anything else, nation first, and movies like this, beautiful, gorgeous, very needed, very needed. I just want to say that anyone who thinks that this movie is anti any community and all of that, I mean, you guys really missed the point. You guys really, missed the point. This is about presenting truth and facts and not sticking your head in the sand. And the ruling establishment in our neighbor country has been and will always be um, anti us. Okay. And if you have any doubt about that, then just go and watch any of their army chiefs. Oh, sorry, field marshal, whatever. Watch any of his recent speeches before Pahalgam, after Pahalgam, any of the hate rhetoric that gets thrown around on a daily basis, and you will know. And that does not mean that there are not people there who understand the truths and who don't agree with those, hate spreading people and who wouldn't prefer peace, right? I'm not saying any of that. The two things are not mutually exclusive. Like अगर ये है तो ये नहीं है, ये है तो ये कैसे हो सकता, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. The two exist, okay, in our neighboring land, but this dominates, and we constantly have to deal with the actions of these who dominate, and it's pissing off, and it is annoying, to say the least. To say the least. So yeah, take it as you want. I did post a reel just yesterday. It happened to pop up on my Instagram feed of a Pakistani influencer, and she was excited to go watch the film. She went with her 3 friends, one of whom was like, "Oh, it's about my city." It's from Karachi, and 4 of them walked out saying, "Please go and watch this." They're telling every Pakistani to go watch this and said it's based on facts and reality. Go watch it. It's not anti this thing. So there are some sane people out there who get it, and because I am talking about all the things that I've talked about, and because my channel has been the way it's always been, I will never have any hate in my heart for people like that who get it. I have always, I mean, I grew up in the Middle East. What do you think? I've never had friends from the other side. Of course I have. Have I never given full respect and exposure and thing to their art? Of course I have, right from my radio careers in Dubai to even now on my YouTube channel. But there comes a point where you got to just stand behind your nation in certain circumstances and be very very rigid in that stand. And that does not mean that I don't think people on the other side don't want peace. Like, there are no such people. Of course there are. Unfortunately, they're not the ones calling the shots. And if there are any of those people watching this review and like the reel that I shared of the Pakistanis, if you all agree, then great. Maybe in the future we can all shake hands again. And guys, I feel like we really need to talk about the meltdowns that are happening, whether it's from these movie critics who have anything that is real truth, and supportive of the nation and does not whitewash crap that should never have been whitewashed, but that Bollywood kept doing over the years. Whether it is regular people, citizens like you and me, whether it is Bollywood stars like Hrithik Roshan, like the meltdowns, man, it must be talked about, because what is wrong with these people? I just don't get it. It takes you back to that dialogue of Ajay Sanyal in the film, ki number one enemies are within the nation only. So to all those people, I just want to say, leave your political ideology and your hate or love for individuals in that arena and just look at this movie for what it is. It is based on fact. It is based on real life events that have happened. They've happened the way they've happened, whether you like it or not. And I just don't understand कि आपकी प्रॉब्लम क्या है. वो आंटी याद है उस मूवी में मैं प्रेम की दीवानी हूँ. She was like, क्या तुम दोनों you'll Biswa and Kannan के रिव्यू में they highlighted that. I cannot forget her. तो फिर प्रॉब्लम क्या है? तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है? So I want to play her dialogue over here for these people. Like, इस मूवी में real events दिखाए हैं, जो भी फेलिंग्स थे हमारे गवर्नमेंट के, जो भी हमारा लैक ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स था, हमारा लैक ऑफ स्पाइन था. It should actually make you angry and as a citizen of the country and be like, man, these things have been swept under the rug for too long. And we need to be aware of these things. And it is not Aditya Dhar, like I said earlier, it is not Aditya Dhar's fault कि पहले ऐसे decisions लिए गए थे. And it is not his fault कि 2014 के बाद ऐसे decisions लिए गए हैं. How is it his fault? It is factual truth. And how can it be propaganda when you are just being, like my friend, she said the most amazing thing. She said, how can anything be propaganda if it's just truth? And the funniest thing is, this is not even 1400, 1500 का truth. ये हमारे सबकी lifetime में हुए हैं चीजें. So we've lived through them. You can't fool us about this stuff. We were alive when all of this happened. We were alive when Kandahar hijacking happened. We were alive when the Hawala scam and the fake currency was going around. We were alive when Parliament attack happened. We were alive when bomb blasts kept happening year after year. 2006, usse pehle. We were alive when 26/11 happened. We were alive through the response of that. You know, we were alive through Pulwama, Uri, Pahalgam. We've been alive through all of it, guys. We all know that this is how it is. And you think you're gonna have a spy movie where one agent is making out with another and singing songs in bikinis and swimsuits on the beach? Like, that's a spy movie to you? You praise those, right? And you've gone gaga over those kind of dumb films. I don't know how anyone. I was so irked when those movies were making money and breaking box office records, and you can see the whole ecosystem behind praising trash films. Like you guys have done a, as movie critics in this country, you guys have done the biggest disservice to the films, to the movies that you proclaim to be passionate about, to the entire space of filmmaking, to the entire world of cinema. You guys have done the biggest disservice by praising those crappy films and making sure that Indian cinema remains as far away from reality and truth, no matter how brutal or gory or out of tune with your particular sensibilities it may be. You guys have done such a disservice to the nation and to the industry that you claim to love. I can't. And then you see even actors like Hrithik Roshan saying irrelevant things in their Instagram posts and then quickly trying to course correct on X. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Are you serious? You cannot find a fault in this movie because it's so brilliantly made. Every single freaking department and aspect is shining beyond anything else we've seen in the movies. Of course, there are like legendary movies in our history, but somewhere down the line, the entire ecosystem got hijacked, and it remains hijacked to this day by the likes of these movie critics who are trying to trash this film. Like, honestly, please leave your politics out of it. We don't care who you back and who you vote for, but like, please don't do a disservice, one, to the nation, and two, to the world of cinema. So anyway, that's that. And the funny thing is, जब आपको गॉडफादर प्रेज करनी होगी, उसके वायलेंट सीन्स और बाकी कोई लाइक फॉरेन क्राइम फिल्म या माफिया फिल्म आपको क्रिटिक करनी होगी, तो you'll be like, oh, they have shown things so real, so and hats off, what a film, ye wo. Come on. You think the torture scenes, the violent scenes in this movie were even a fraction of the reality? The reality is far worse. At least don't do a disservice to the fallen soldiers, to the captured soldiers who were tortured and to unimaginable levels. Please go and listen to podcasts of people who have served in our armed forces. Please listen to the on-ground realities and stories from them. Monks and Warriors is my most listened to podcast of this year. Because I want to know what the truth is. I want to know what the people on ground face to protect my country every day. And if you want to run away from that reality or try to never highlight it, or like, I just don't understand what your agenda would be, except that you are just anti-national. मुझे कुछ और समझ ही नहीं आता है. How can you with a straight face? And the funny thing is, these critics, I don't even know half their names, but they were having a meltdown कि उन्होंने अपनी 3-4 थे एक साथ. उन्होंने जब उनको बैकलैश मिलना शुरू हुआ तो अपने ही बबल में अपने ही सेम लीनिंग्स वाली ऑडियंस के साथ उन्होंने पब्लिकली अपना अपने आप को शाबाशी देने के लिए एक जूम कॉल या लाइव स्ट्रीम जो भी है कर लिया, praising each other's reviews of the film. And you're just like, oh my god, man, like, are you for real? All of you are just like doing the biggest disservice to your world of cinema and to yourselves and to your country. So just please sit down. And Hrithik Roshan to aaye to forget it. I don't have any this thing to say. The entire ecosystem and that's why I say that we need to treat this movie as not Bollywood. It is Hindi cinema. and let's not associate it with this, because this word Bollywood has become so ugh. And I've been saying this for years. And me as an NRI, I was having a discussion with a diplomat in London, and I was saying that, sadly, the biggest culture export from India right now is Bollywood. And it's not only sad, because it presents things in this, like, fine, आपको light hearted चीजें करनी है करो, but सिर्फ वही तो मत करो, right? And सिर्फ white washing तो मत करो चीजों की. Like, the way things have been presented in our movies has been so disgraceful and irritating over the years that I switched off. Like 5 years ago, I just stopped watching most movies from the industry. Like, most, kya, all. There may have been one or two rare exceptions. But that aside, I was also telling the same diplomat ki, sadly, NRI kids, second, third generation, their main attachment or bridge, connection bridge to the motherland and through their parents and family has been the movies. So most of these kids who I have spent enough time around, because I've lived in the US, I've lived in the UK, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in the Middle East. I have interacted with NRIs my whole life, right? From everywhere. And most of them, and I connect more with, I've always connected more with Indians from India, because Indians from outside, I would just feel like, and I was very young, right? So I would just feel like, okay, you think you're Indian, or you feel very Indian because you can do Madhuri Dixit's hook step on this song, or you know the dialogues of this movie, or what Shah Rukh Khan said in that scene or wore in that scene, or like, like, to me, it was just like, what? So for too long has Bollywood as a culture export and as a cinema world been so just very superficial, irrelevant stuff. And when that gets challenged by something that's so brilliant technically and in its messaging and in its thing, and it doesn't fit the agenda of the people who support this ecosystem, obviously it's going to rattle them, right? And it's so easy then to separate the wheat from the chaff. Like, take this movie as the ultimate revelation film. It's going to tell you who's who and what's what, and it's going to take the masks off, basically. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I want to end with. Mad props to Aditya Dhar, his vision, his intent, and to every single crew member, every single actor, every single technician, every single person involved with this film in whichever way. Shashwat, every artist, on the soundtrack, everybody, every single person, you guys have done a great service to all of us, to the nation, to our history, to what we need to actually project into the world as Indian cinema, so yeah, that's all I'm going to end this with. And sorry, not sorry that this has been kind of long. I don't even know how long it is, but I just needed to do it this way, because this is the only way I know how to talk about things that move me and that I want to deep dive into. So on that note, take very good care of yourselves and enjoy the meltdowns, just like I am. See you in the next one. Live long and prosper.